with where you are and who you are right now, everything that leads up to it, you have to be grateful for.
Yeah.
And there are too many, like the losses to wins ratio when it comes to roles, you can't hold on to it because you're
No.
always going to lose more roles than you get.
You got
Um,
the victories in stone and the losses in sand.
yes, who just said that to us on our podcast?
Somebody. Oh,
At Olmsted.
that Olmsted. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So great.
And also, my brother, I remember years later, though, my brother said, it had come up, and my brother said to me, and maybe if you had gotten grazed, you would have died in a car accident on the way to set. Like, butterfly effect. Like, you don't know.
Yeah, it's
Maybe
true.
the show would have sucked. You know, maybe you would have tanked it. Like, who knows?
That's amazing.
Maybe the show would have lasted only a few seasons.
Yeah,
Who
right.
knows?
Maybe it would have been a success had I been on it.
What was, I mean, this is a whole podcast in and of itself, but Sarah, like overarching, like just high level, what was The Walking Dead like for you
Mm.
playing Lori? I know that's a very loaded question.
It's a loaded question, but no, I mean, honestly, the first thing that comes to my mind is family.
Mm.
We, Paul and I talk about this. Prison Break, we were all in physically different places. Paul was on a different show season one than I was on. The guys were in their thing. Um, I have this big drive towards community. I don't entirely know where it comes from. It may
Theater
come
kids,
from
theater kids, theater kids.
maybe, yeah. I mean, because with theater, what it's you and the techies and the AD and you're
Put on a
all in it.
show.
And I wanted to create that feeling of a company on Prison Break, and it just wasn't that show, and it
Mm.
wasn't that cast. And I came off of that onto Walking Dead. Andy, John, and I met. Uh, Andy picked us up, which was terrifying because he had just learned how to drive. And of course, he's English. And so, like, John and I spent the whole time, like, basically saying Hail Marys under our breath. Um, Picked us up and drove us to an art
Wait, who
department.
is this? Andrew.
Andy Lincoln, John Bernthal, and
Uh,
I, we were the only people, we were the only cast there at the time, um, before they'd even started shooting. And the three of us got in a car to go to a barbecue at the art department. And by the end of that, like we got there and we're like, oh my God, we're an hour early to the party. We went to a cafe, sat down, and by the end of that conversation, I was like, oh, we all want the same thing. We
mm,
want no bullshit, no egos. Work comes first, and we take care of each other.
mm,
Wanting that is one thing, making it happen is another. It was the most important thing to all three of us every single day. And because we were all on set together as number one, two, and three on the call sheet, that created a whole
yeah.
culture. You know what I mean? And like we had I'm sure John's told this story before, but we had somebody come to play a role from LA who did not subscribe to that culture and was not pleased about the heat and was not pleased about any number of things. And uh, by the end of that episode, John had essentially walked him off set, pointed to one of our Teamsters who looked just like him, and was like, "You're gonna do these shots because I'm not doing it with this motherfucker." And it was
Uh,
like there was just a zero tolerance policy
yeah.
for not being there to serve the other people on set,
Yeah.
and that changed. I mean, and then I brought that into Colony, and that
Yeah.
became a family. Like that mattered so much to me. I left and the show changed and things get successful. And I don't think it was like that by the end, but I am more proud of the culture that was created
Mm.
on set in those first two seasons than maybe anything I've ever done.
Wow.
And it was buy-in from everyone, by the way. It was also the crew being like, oh, fuck, yeah, let's do this. Like, it was amazing.
And that's
Fight
rare.
scene, besides our fight scene, that's you're most proud of our fight scene.
That was the scaredest, most scared I've ever
Same.
been
That's
on
a
it.
story. That's it. We haven't even gotten to that
We
yet.
haven't even gotten there. I'm very nervous actually about watching our season two stuff
Yeah.
together.
Me too.
Because some of it was amazing and some of it was hair raising.
Correct.
Are you guys, well, I mean, one of the reasons I love Prison Break, and I think so many people loved it, is just, anything could happen. Like, just literally anything. I don't know if you watched Scandal, Sarah, but I mean, Paul, you were on Scandal. Like, what do you think? Is Scandal more out there than Prison Break? Like,
You know,
which of those is?
Oh, that's a good
I
question.
just did Katie Lowe's and Guillermo's Inside the Toolbox podcast, last week, which is their Scandal rewatch, and I hadn't seen a Scandal episode in a long time, and I went back and watched the one that we were going to be doing, and I was like, this has the rhythm of Prison Break.
Does
I,
it?
I never put two and two together. I mean, it was years late. I mean, I said to them on the podcast, I said, the number of jaw-dropping reversals per square inch is only rivaled by Prison Break. And I was on private practice for 6 years. Scandal
Right.
was like, I remember there was an episode of Scandal where a main character's husband reveals he's gay at the end of Act 5, and at the end of the tag, his wife, a series regular, stabs him to death. It was just like,
Oh my God.
like you're just like, oh my God, that would have been 4 episodes of a show 10
Yeah.
years,
Yeah.
and so I think they're really on par. The thing that Prison Break, one of the things that allowed it to get away with such craziness was the fact that it was such close quarters in a prison.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons why Scandal felt so insane is the backdrop of it was the White House and international politics. So Shonda applied that kind of Grey's Anatomy, really high drama to the corridors of power. It's one of the things but it's so incredibly personal. So like, I really think there's a real, it never occurred to me before, but I think, David, it's one of the things that we were talking about, how television has changed. Prison Break, maybe 24 too, but Prison Break really felt like one of the first shows where the pace of development and plot reversal and anything could happen was so ratcheted up.
Yeah.
In Scandals, 10 years late, 9 years later. So I think the landscape was changing as peak TV was coming in, and people were trying to kind of get more eyeballs, make appointment TV. I mean, Scandal was really appointment TV still. There already was streaming,
the Twitterverse.
The Twitterverse, all that stuff. So there's a real overlap.
I find the pace of both similar. Yeah. I mean, in that they're just the amount of plot twists in 1 hour and, with commercials, 45 minutes is just insane on both.
We often, by the end of the teaser, as we're watching together, we'll be like, oh my God,
that's only the teaser.
Gotten to the credits.
Yeah.
Because it's dense. And I wonder if it reflects a cultural shortening of our attention span.
I do too. But we love talking to the writers who seem to have, each one says it was one of the best experiences of their life. The writers room pretty much stayed the same for 5 years, which is unheard of.
4 years.
Sorry, 4 years, which is almost unheard of. And I think they loved doing that thing that you were talking about. They loved cramming that story in there. And they talked about, Matt Olmstead, who ran the show for years, talked about them trying to outdo one another when they went off to write their scripts. And they really had a good time doing it.
It was one of the first shows I can think of that really just changed things. There's so much that happens. We talk about like how the landscape of TV has changed, reality TV. I mean, are either of you fans of reality TV? And I ask, Paul, because you were on Bravo, which I know you were not on reality show, but you were on 2 great scripted shows on Bravo. But do either of you like reality TV?
I like the contesty ones. I like the cooking ones and the Amazing Racy ones. The kind of throwing Cosmos ones aren't as much my speed.
I'm currently obsessed with Welcome to Wrexham. I don't know if that counts as reality TV. It's more like a docuseries, maybe.
Is that they bought the soccer team one?
Yeah, that's Ryan Reynolds and some other guy bought a soccer team. And what's hilarious is the some other guy thing. Like his name is Rob McElhenney, and I do know who he is, but I just think it's hysterical that
it's Always Sunny. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
And it was 15 years.
It was clearly his idea too, but like because Ryan Reynolds is so famous, it's this sort of ongoing joke. So I guess that's not really reality TV.
Well,
so I guess that's a no from me. I must watch something like that.
Is it fun, that show? I haven't seen it.
Wrexham? I'm obsessed.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. Oh, really?
Oh,
it's going to make me feel bad for not having hundreds of millions of dollars and going out and being able to buy a ball club.
No, I don't think so. Because it's actually very little about them. It's really about the town.
Oh,
It's sort of like if you picture Ted Lasso, except you spend 80% or
uh,
60% of the show with those three fans in the pub, sitting around watching it. Like I think it's really, really moving. And maybe that's
Interesting.
not reality
check it out.
television. I'm sorry. I've never seen a real